Our main character wakes up. He's been reborn. And the first thing he thinks is, I reincarnated into a fantasy world. He looks up and notices the ceiling. He's like, a quiet ceiling, candles instead of LED bulbs. The world is old school. He gets a wider view of the room and the people in it. He figures out IT was a fantasy world that lagged behind in civilization compared to Earth. And he's in a fairly rich household. As he's being held, he's basically just relieved. He thinks, for an orphan without a home who died from overwork, this is a fairly decent place to reincarnate into. He's realizing another plus side to his new life. He thinks, there was another reason why I thought I was born into a rich household. And that's because the birth mother of this child was extremely beautiful. The mom is looking down at him with love in her eyes, saying, my baby. He sees this and is already thinking about the future, saying, luckily, it seemed that I wouldn't have any problems with my love life in the future. We hit a time skip. The character, no longer a baby, is stepping onto a stool with a big hop. He uses the stool to reach the window. The text tells us, I saw the world outside my window for the first time, out of my cradle. He looks out the window, his face full of excitement, and just lets out an OHH. Okay, so he's finally peeping the outside world, and it's wild. He's like, it's really otherworldly, and realizes how big the town is, even though he's just a little kid. Low-key, this place is massive. But the vibe check gets cut short. The maid comes busting in, yelling, young master. My guy's adventure was short-lived. She snatches him up, being all young master, dangerous. And here's the tea. She drops his full title. Turns out he's not just rich, he's his lord, the Grand Duke. He's been caught by his nanny and finds out his family is a huge deal in the kingdom. He just says, sorry, nanny. The narration drops a major truth bomb. I was the son of the Grand Duke Dragonia in the kingdom of Lionheart, aka a duke. We jump 8 years into the future. The character gets his hands on a sword, and the action is about to start. He's hyped. The narration says he started learning swordsmanship to become a knight. He's thinking, a fantasy knight. Am I going to use sword chi and aura too? The narrator reveals his master has arrived. He's a knight dispatched from the palace, the Holy Knight, Sir Gothic. The new master looks at him and says, I'm sure this is the goddess's will. He seems super into the idea of teaching him. The master then says, please to meet you, Leon. Our main character has a shocked thought bubble. HM? Holy Knight? So, yeah, his new teacher is a big deal, and we just found out his name is Leon. Our main character is super eager to start training. He tells Sir Gothic to take good care of him, and the narrator is left wondering what's really going on. 14 years fly by. The training has not been chill. Leon is now completely fed up, and he's calling out his master for freaking child abuse. The narrator explains that becoming a holy knight is crazy hard. We hear Sir Gothic's voice telling Leon, one more lap, as the intense training continues. We get the full rundown on what it takes to become a knight. The narration says he has to do quests by training and earn experience and honor to become a knight of the kingdom. And finally, get chosen by the Holy Grail to drink the holy water. All that training is paying off, and our main character is now using a sword with some serious power. The sound effect is crack, so you know he's strong. And on top of all that, the narrator adds that, as the son of Dragonia, he also has to learn everything about becoming a Grand Duke. It's not just a knight grind, it's a leader grind, too. The sword training is intense. Sir Gothic tells him, look at your opponent until the Yendi, while Leon is just yelling, AHHH. We get a reminder of his double life. The narration states he's getting lessons to become the successor of the Grand Duke, on top of training to become a holy knight. It's a lot to handle. The training finally breaks him. Leon is on the ground, completely worn out. He's so done he thinks, if there really is a God, I want to ask them to save me, before adding, though I don't believe in any religion. We hit another time skip. 16 years later, and our main character is now a young man, traveling on his own. He's out in the rain, looking a bit rough, and he's thinking IT was here somewhere. The narrator explains that he has been out roaming the world. He's on this journey because, as the narration tells us, he's trying to find a way to be acknowledged by the goddess and become a holy knight after accepting my quest. The narrator explains how to get the goddess's acknowledgement. The way to do it is to rack up your fame and good deeds. Our main character's response? That's ridiculous. Meanwhile, he can hear people screaming about ORCS coming in swarms. We see the knights in the kingdom are in a tight spot, with one of them calling out, "There are too many ORCS." Another thinks to himself, "Is this the Yendi?" The narrator sees the massive horde of orcs. He notes that this situation is countless opportunities for me to wield my sword, but he's also concerned about it. A new character shows up, getting heated and yelling at an orc. "You trash! How dare you invade the territory of the kingdom with your soiled feet?" Our boy Leon is in the thick of it. The narrator says the kingdom had too many enemies, and we see Leon using his sword to take them down. Then we fast forward. 20 years pass. We're looking at an older Leon, and he seems completely dazed and out of it, with a blur sound effect. Our guy meets the goddess. The narration is him thinking, they weren't lying, she really was a goddess, and she's telling him his name. The son of Wolfert Dragonia, Leon Dragonia. She gives him his mission. "I will provide you with a quest to prove your honor and faith." He accepts right away, yelling, "I accept your orders, Ariana." The narrator is still in disbelief, saying the goddess really existed. And after years of grinding, the narrator's thoughts confirm it. And after slaving away for many years, I became a holy knight. After becoming a holy knight, the narrator explains, I slayed and slayed. He confirms he slayed orcs, tore apart goblins, and slashed away at an evil cult. All that fighting paid off. The narration says, eventually, I became a war knight of the kingdom, giving me authority to gather other knights. He then drops a huge number, saying, I massacred 700,000 ORCS, including the women and children. And after all that, we see his face. The narrator's final thought on the situation is, I felt so refreshed, right after saying, goddamn green sons of bitches. It's 35 years later, and we find out the king has passed away. The narration explains that the living saint and demigod died in a battle with a demon that was summoned by the empire. Things are getting wild. The narrator says, ORCS were enough of an headache, but now the fucking demons were running amok. He then adds that this is exactly why people need to have faith in the gods. The narrator, who is likely Leon, sounds completely over it. He says, fucking magicians of the empire. He then cuts to the real issue. A holy knight needs to be elected to take over for the late king. The goddess shows up, and as the narrator says, the goddess descended upon us and selected me. She's officially calling him to be the next leader, telling him to succeed as the symbol of honor and faith. Leon accepts the call, saying, yes, Ariana. The narration reveals he knows it's a position of honor and fatigue, but he accepts it because he can't let down the people and the knights who follow him. In the last panel, he gets a huge power-up. He transplanted the sacred treasure, the lion heart, from the goddess, and vowed to protect the Holy Grail. The crown is being placed on his head, and the narration says, and that is how I became the Grand Duke Dragonia and the king of the Lionheart Kingdom. He officially made it to the top. And with that, we hit the final time skip. A massive 80 years pass, and the narrator says, many things happened in that time. The story cuts to Leon still leading his army into battle. Over those 80 years, the narrator says there were 3 great wars with ORCS, and even some weirdo hunchback goblin evolved into an archdemon. So, yeah, it's been busy. The narrator adds that the Empire just created more fucked up situations, and a knight calls him Your Majesty, confirming his king status. Leon is told that the Empire's school of dark magicians is enforcing experimentation again. And this is all because the Empire had accepted a bastardly northern cult. The plot is definitely thickening. We see Leon's true colors here. He's ordering the knights to gather, and his thoughts are all about how the people don't even deserve to be slaves, and that he should just conquer them all. We jump ahead again. A huge 96 years have passed. The narrator says the Empire bastards had finally done it. We see the Emperor, and he's screaming, "We offer you 3 million live offerings. Please grant me my request." The narrator ends with, "The Emperor crossed the line." So that Emperor, who said he didn't want to die, went and committed suicide along with 3 million citizens from the capital. And with that crazy sacrifice, he summoned the Lord of Chaos in the capital. The ultimate big bad has arrived. But Leon is not having it. The narrator says he gathered the knights and took out his holy sword. The narrator adds that the sword wasn't even dry, with the grease from the ORCS from last year. Then Leon says, "Let's go to the Empire." We get one last time skip, a huge 121 years. The narrator says, "I tried my best, but the world was being destroyed, unlike my wishes." We see him holding a doll as he thinks, "I tried to defeat all evil with all of the holiness that was on this continent, but I couldn't stop them." He's on his knees, surrounded by fallen knights, and another knight comes up to him, saying, "Lord Leon." This looks like the end of the line for him. Leon tells the other knight, "Sir Aron, you can be proud." He then says, "Your father." Sir Aron looks at him and says, "Yes." As the previous narration continues, confirming that his father died with honor and joined the feast of the gods. The narrator sighs, Goddess." Leon then turns to his remaining troops and orders them, "All troops, look in front of you." The voice asks, "Do you hear the sound of the villains across the land?" The narration adds that the women consoling their crying children and swallowing their tears. The voice continues, asking if he hears those who stole our brothers. The narration says, the youths gathering the dying flames of resistance in their hands. The narration finishes by talking about the knights trying to plant seeds of Hope, Indiana, a wasteland soaked with blood, as Leon and his army prepare for a big showdown. Our guy Leon is looking up and talking directly to the goddess. He's calling her out, asking if she can hear the sound of the villains who are trying to violate everything. He's fired up and yelling with a look of pure rage, shouting in rage eternally. The narrator closes out this section with some bad news. A text bubble says to be enraged at those fools who are deceived with victory, and then reveals that your first knight will not be able to stop the evil that is spread far beyond the horizon. Speech bubble is shown, giving a final, desperate order to the troops. It yells, and remember, as long as we have honor, we will not lose. Leon is in the middle of the fight, yelling, "Goddess, my goddess," as he goes all out. The narrator, Leon, questions himself, what should this foolish knight do? He then answers his own question and lets out a final war cry for the goddess. The goddess is talking to him, saying, "My knight, my beloved honored knight." And Leon responds, "Ready to go, with for honor." The goddess gives him a final word of encouragement, telling him, "Your goddess will be with you until the end, my knight." Leon then yells, "For Lionheart." And with that, he gives the final order to everyone, all troops, charge. The narrator says, that winter, we fought the final battle with billions of devils who filled the earth. The fight is not pretty. The narration says, the barbarian slaves were used as worthy meat shields, and civilian knights armed with spears and shields died with honor along with the glorious knights. And in the middle of all that chaos, we see Leon. The narrator says he's the chosen agent of all gods and all holy temples. The narrator explains how it all ended. It was a one-man job, as he says, "I alone defeated the demons until the end." The narrator confirms the scale of the fight, saying he tore apart countless demon lords and archdemons. And with that, he showed them all the true power of a holy knight. The narrator says he showed those bastards the power of the holy knight. The time keeps on rolling. It's now been 217 years since the battle began. The narrator says, winter had yet to yendi. We see even more time pass, jumping to 231 years, then 234 years, and finally 256 years. It's at the 256 years mark when it finally ends. Leon says he destroyed the last remaining demon gate. Leon has destroyed the last demon gate. The narrator says there was nowhere left for them to escape to. He turns on the remaining demons, yelling, "You poor, lowly servants of evil. You are now stuck here with me, in this world." The demons are terrified, and Leon's narration hits us with a final punchline. "I will kill every last one of you." He adds, "I was not stuck." Our main character is going all out, telling the demons he's trapped them all, yelling, "You fucking bastards." He's not just fighting them, he's enjoying it. We get the final time skip, and it's a huge one. The number 300 years appears, showing just how long he was stuck fighting all those demons. The big bad is finally taken down. We see the last demon get hit by a final blow, ending the 300-year battle. We're with some new people now. Someone yells, "Hari, are you all right?" She seems dazed, saying UGH. What happened? We get the big reveal. He defeated the archdemon in one slash. Leon is shown standing next to the defeated demon, proving his immense power. A voice comes from above, telling a person to rise, courageous one. The person thinks, now is not the time to fall. Rise and fight. It seems like Leon's about to be their new leader. A man and woman stare at him, confused, and one of them asks, "Who are you?" Leon finally gives his name, yelling, "I am King Lionheart." He continues his monologue, saying he's the knight of the glorious knights, and the agent who carries out the will of the holy temples. And with that, the manhwa is officially ready to begin. Our hero finally gives his full name, Leon Dragonia Lionheart. A voiceover confirms the final time skip. It's been 300 years since he was stuck in that battle. Leon explains that it was the 300th year when I came across the Earthlings. A game system notification appears, confirming that he has defeated all the demons, with remaining demons 0. And with all of that, the first chapter closes with a final line that's also the title. The Night King has returned. Manhwa opens with a gate showing up right in the middle of Seoul. This gate's rank is a total mystery, described as an unidentifiable black. The narrator explains that the Hunter Association tried to get the top guilds to deal with it, but they all said no because they had no idea how dangerous it was. In the end, it looks like a new crew is about to step up to the plate. The government is forcing them into the Black Gate. The narrator says it's basically an execution order. The narrator is about to reveal what's inside, and then we see our guy, King Lionheart, standing over a bunch of defeated monsters. The narration says what I saw in there was a woman in the group, Hari, sees him and is totally shocked. The narration reveals he's naked, and she recognizes him from the previous manhwa. We see the battlefield, and a voice is calling out, "Associate Han." It's clear a fight just went down. We meet Han Hari, an associate manager at the Korean Hunter Association. Someone is yelling at her, and she looks startled. The man who called out is Kim Jin-soo, a head manager. He offers her a drink, and she gratefully accepts. We're back with the Hunter Association crew. One of them asks, "How is it?" And the other says, "No one's believing it." It's clear the news is hard to swallow. The narrator explains why. It was a black rank gate with an actual great devil in it. The narration says, "Coming back alive. Is already a miracle, but TO have cleared it?" Yeah, no. The final panel gives us the answer. It wasn't a miracle. It was all because of one man. The scene is focused on Leon, who is just sitting there with a silent, powerful presence. Han Hari asks him directly if he's a survivor from the gate. He confirms it, saying, "Yes, a survivor from the other world." The narrator gives us a little more info, saying that there were occasional people who managed to survive in the Gate realm, setting up the idea that Leon isn't the only one. We're learning more about the world. The narrator says that the gates that have appeared all around the world over the last 30 years share similarities. The narrator explains that the gates are actually portals to worlds that are either on its way to destruction or a world that has already been destroyed. Finally, we get the biggest reveal. Sometimes survivors manage to come back to Earth from these worlds while keeping the unbelievable strength they've earned in the demon realm. We get a close-up of a knight's helmet, which gives us an idea of just how powerful these survivors are. The narrator explains that the government is trying to scout them by catering to their needs. Hanhari and her manager are talking about it. One says we need to scout them and no matter what, and the other agrees, saying that person is incredibly strong, right? No matter what. He's explaining how serious the situation was. Even A-rank hunters risk their lives fighting these high-ranking demons. He then reveals that our main character killed the great devil with just one attack. The narrator doubles down on the level of power, saying this was the monster that even the most skilled S-rank hunters are afraid of. And then the final drop. The narrator says, "You didn't just kill it. It looks like there's more to the story." The Hunter Association crew is looking into the gate, and they can see the giant monster that was inside. The narrator confirms what just happened, telling us that Leon completely overpowered it. Now, they have a new problem. One of the characters thinks, what I'm most worried of right now is the cultural difference, and realizes that he's got to be royalty. We're in the car with the Hunter Association crew. One of them says, "I think it'll be fine," and another asks, "Why do you think that?" The narrator, Hanhari, is thinking to herself, I could hear it in his voice, that he's a very good person. But then we see a flash of Leon from his past, and he's completely enraged, yelling, "You lowly." The Hunter Association office just got messy. Glass is shattering everywhere, and the workers are all freaking out. One of the characters yells, "The glass that stops even monsters," which tells us just how powerful Leon's rage is. We get to see the source of his anger. He's standing there with a golden aura, yelling, "How dare you dirty the glorious Lionheart name?" The manager is asking, "A very good person," while the chaos of the room is visible. Another character tries to make sense of it, saying, "Cultural difference, I guess." We're then taken 15 minutes earlier to a calm scene of Leon and a man sitting at a table. Leon is thinking to himself, "It feels foreign." The story starts with a simple reality check. Our main character was an orphan in his 20s who died of exhaustion after a lifetime of hard labor. After that, he was reincarnated into another world and became a king and a knight. The narrator says he ruled a kingdom for more than a century. He kept going after that, conquering the demon world. The narrator says he then hunted demons for 200 years. He was in a never-ending grind. The narrator explains that all of this took a total of 300 years, and he's just glad he still has some memories of his original life. We see a nervous guy from the Hunter Association looking at Leon, trying to start a conversation, saying, "UM." The guy is now sitting across from him, looking totally flustered. He tries to address him by his full name. "Hello, Leon Dragonia, Lionheart." Leon is thinking to himself that it won't be beneficial for me to reveal the fact that I use be an earthling. He's questioning whether a king who lived for 300 years is a better look than a guy who died from overwork. He then looks at the man from the Hunter Association and tells him directly, "Refer to me as Your Majesty, peasant." The manager is totally caught off guard by the order. His face is filled with confusion and question marks. He quickly recovers, stutters, and calls Leon, "Why, Your Majesty?" Leon, in his head, says he's playing along. Leon is still trying to figure out this world. He thinks to himself, is he just a nice person, or is the government just careful about how they approach survivors like me? The manager is trying to get his thoughts straight, stumbling over his words as he asks about the Black Gate, or Your Majesty's world. He gets to the point and asks, "And you killed all those demons, correct?" Leon gives him a simple and direct answer. Yes. The manager is totally shook by the answer. Leon then asks him, Did you already forget? Which makes the manager even more confused, asking, sorry? What do you mean? Leon is sitting with his arms crossed, and he says he killed all those evil species and protected the honor of the knights. He then gives an order to the manager. I order you to be my temporary secretary. The manager is totally stunned. Leon continues, I shall bestow upon you the privilege of recording this glorious incident. The manager, completely flustered, can only stammer out, yeah, yes. And with that, the manager is now Leon's temporary secretary, as he rationalizes the whole thing by thinking, cultural difference. The manager is trying to move things along, starting a sentence with anyway, but Leon interrupts, asking, are there no etiquette rules for how you treat royalty here? The manager then realizes Leon is hungry and quickly says, I will have a meal prepared right away. Leon's focus shifts, and he tells the manager, and tell me about this world. The narrator adds, I need to figure out what happened to Earth while I was gone. The manager gets ready to talk, saying, hey, right. I'll explain. He tells Leon that gates began opening all over the world, introducing the major conflict of the story. He continues, saying that monsters and demons appeared from them, and as a result, the world has been in a constant state of emergency ever since. The manager explains that after a lot of losses, they realized each gate has a theme and a clear quest, and if you leave a gate alone, the monsters will invade Earth. The manager suddenly gets up, yelling, I think the meal is ready. Leon just says, HM. Leon is thinking to himself, and he says, that's a bit different. He's clearly comparing this to the world he came from. Leon is thinking about the differences. In his old world, demons invaded like mushrooms after a rain. But in this one, there are gates with themes and quests. He's deep in thought, and the narrator says, if to. Then we get the big reveal. The gates were made by God to train the humans through trials. The manager shows up with a meal, calling Leon, Your Majesty. He tells him, the meal's ready. Leon responds with a simple HM. But then we see Leon himself cooking. It looks like he's making a meal for himself. Close-up of Leon's eye and his thought bubble says he's having a new realization. The food is revealed, Tang. The narration describes it as a bone broth with salt, pepper, and some crunchy kimchi. The narrator explains that when Leon was a laborer, Tang was like soul food for him. It's comfort food from his past life. But Leon's a king now. He's resisting the urge to eat it, telling himself, no. He's forcing himself to be different from his past self. Leon is sitting at the table and asks what the food is. The manager explains, it's called Tang, Your Majesty. But the manager just keeps talking, saying it's known as the soul food of peasants. And with that, Leon's eyes start to glow. And our guy goes ballistic. He's yelling, You inferior! You dare sully the glorious Lionheart name? Leon is furious. He's yelling, How dare you serve a royal a peasant's dish? And asking the manager if this is how your kingdom treats another kingdom's royal. The narrator lays out Leon's full titles, calling him Leon Dragonia Lionheart, royal from the other world, and a proxy for the gods. Leon yells at the manager, Get out of here, you inferior peasant. He proves he's not messing around by throwing the food on the ground. The narrator then lists his other titles, Guardian of the Holy Grail, and the owner of the Holy Blade and the Holy Spear. The narrator recaps everything we just saw. He calls Leon the arch-nemesis of the demons, the incarnation of the history of the 300-year war, and a returning who used T.O.B. and Earthling. The narrator then reveals what Leon was really thinking when he first showed up. It's a mess, and his true feelings come out. He's yelling that it's all because there's no proper religious faith, and that enlightening the foolish peasants is the duty of the royal family. Image. The final panel shows his overturned food, and the narrator's last words are, Despite having returned to Earth, he was still a Night King. We see Leon eating a steak. It looks like he's actually enjoying the food he was given. We get a comedic moment with the chibi characters from the Hunter Association. They're shocked and say that he's eating a super expensive T-bone steak and red wine that was made in 1993. The manager tells Hari to go talk to him, saying, "Hari, you go first." She's panicked, but the manager says he thinks Leon is more interested in her. Hari is nervous about talking to him. She's thinking that he at least said she was brave, so he probably won't kick her out. She finally gets the courage to talk to him, saying, "Why, Your Majesty, I'm deeply sorry for interrupting you while you're eating." Leon looks at her and then tells her, "You're that swordsman from before." He remembers her. Leon tells her to sit. Hari is so relieved she gets a big smile on her face, and the manager in the background gives a thumbs up. She asks him if he liked the meal, and he responds, "It wasn't bad. I could feel the sincerity and finesse of the chef." Leon then explains his earlier outburst, saying it wasn't because the food was humble. It was because of your attitude towards the king. Hari is in a total panic, apologizing and yelling, "Due to my lack of knowledge, I have disrespected you." She's realizing that he's serious about being royalty. Leon dismisses her apology, saying, "Then that's fine." He then asks her, "Was your name Han something?" She replies, "Why, yes. My name is Han Hari." He looks at her with glowing eyes and asks about the main problem of this world. Those wicked things have appeared on this earth, right? It looks like he's ready to fight. The narrator reveals Hari's one and only mission, and she confirms it by saying, "Yes, that is right. Her mission is get him join the Hunter Association." Hari gets to the point, try to get Leon to join. She says to him, "Perhaps, if your majesty would give US your royal permission, the South Korean government could look after you from now on." The narrator explains the political game behind the scenes, saying that the goal is to scout survivors and stop them from joining another country. Leon is looking on seriously, and he says so. He makes his decision, saying, "As long as I'm settled in this world, I have a duty to go to the battlefield." He adds that as an honorable knight, it's only right that he should fight. Hari asks Leon, "Then do you want to be affiliated with our Hunters Association?" Leon is not having it. He's furious and yells, "A king cannot be a soldier for another nation's military." He then announces, "I will create a new knight's order here in this world." Hari is completely speechless, and the narrator says that she could only nod. Hari is freaking out, yelling, "What did the higher UPS say?" The manager is on the phone, and he's telling her that they have to give Leon as much support as possible. Hari is frustrated, saying, think that the association needs to bow down to him." Hari then completely loses it, with her body on fire, yelling, "This is all because of those bastards from the large guilds who flaunt their money and power." An alarm starts blaring in the office, and the characters all jump up, panicked, asking HUH. They get an urgent message on their phones, warning them of a dungeon break at the Honan Plains. The manager explains the serious threat, saying that if the dungeon break happens in a granary, the monsters will bring the production of food to a halt. The manager is furious, yelling that there's no way a famous S-rank hunter wouldn't be able to handle this. He's sure the guild has a different plan and says, "We need to go and stop it quickly." Leon is just outside the door, and he can hear the manager on the phone yelling about the Phoenix Guild. Leon just says, "HMM." The narrator says, Leon heard and got a grasp on everything that was said beyond the door. Leon thinks to himself, "It seems like they're in trouble." Leon is in his head, thinking about how dungeon breaks affect the world, questioning, if a dungeon break happens, the ground becomes infected and crops don't grow. He decides, as expected, this place doesn't have it. He looks up and says, "Are you well?" He's talking to someone else. And then a massive flash of power appears. Leon calls out a name, Demi-GOD'S, which looks like it's a huge deal. We see a new person in a green hood looking at a building. It's unclear who they are, but they seem to be watching everything unfold. And then we see what's happening in the Honan Plains. A new red gate has appeared. We're then introduced to Lee Yong-won, the S-rank guildmaster of the Phoenix Guild. He's being confronted by another hunter who's yelling at him. Lee Yong-won just smirks, and you can tell he's not a good guy. A new character shows up, and he knows who everyone is. He says, Section Chief Kim. And Rookie Han Hari is here too. The character looks furious, and he reveals that the guild purposely let the dungeon break happen. The narrator tells us the reason why they did it. The guild has been requesting a tax exemption for the profits from the gates, and they want to be exempt from paying a tax of 1 trillion. The other hunter is still furious. He's thinking that the guild already has enough benefits and can't believe they would do this just because their request was rejected. Hari is yelling at Lee Yong-won, pleading for him to close the gate. He just smirks, saying, I know, and adds that the gate's authority will be handed over to them. Lee Yong-won then gives a fake reason why he can't help, saying his guild members are gravely injured. He just laughs and says it's difficult to raid in this state. Hari is confronting Lee Yong-won, yelling, Why you? Do you not have an ounce of patriotism in you? He just brushes her off, saying they'll try to do it by tomorrow. Lee Yong-won is mocking her, laughing as he says, I don't know. Why are you being so childish? The manager is addressing Hari, and he reminds her, Miss Hari, I told you this in last year's draft, didn't I? The narrator drops some real talk, saying that in this world, justice is money and power. And Leon is not impressed by that. He says, You're quite shallow and old-fashioned. Hari tries to talk to him, saying to Leon, Your Majesty. But Leon cuts her off, saying, Don't say a king's name so lightly. I only permitted you to call me by my title, woman. The guildmaster Lee Yong-won tries to confront Leon, but Leon just cuts him off, telling him to be quiet. Leon's eyes start to glow, and he yells at him, How dare a person lowly you speak? Lee Yong-won is completely furious. He's thinking, he called me, one of the 20 S-rank hunters of the world and the guildmaster of the top 10 guilds, lowly? Leon is holding back Hari from Lee Yong-won, who has a glowing hand ready to attack. Someone else yells, Please stop. Hunter Lee Yong-won. Lee Yong-won is shocked, and someone yells, He's a survivor. He's just now realizing who Leon is. Lee Yong-won completely changes his attitude. He bows and says, I was rude. He then introduces himself. I'm Lee Yong-won from the Phoenix Guild. Lee Yong-won is trying to get a read on Leon, asking if he's from another guild. Leon shuts him down immediately, saying, A king does not repeat himself. Leon then takes charge, telling them, Tell me the problem. I don't know the details of the gate, so give me a good summary. The other two characters are completely ecstatic. One of them asks, Is he going to help? And the other yells, Yes. Yes. Hari is panicked as she sees the monsters, yelling, It's a dungeon break. The narrator explains the threat. When a dungeon break happens, a large amount of demonic element comes out and infects the land. The result is that crops don't grow on infected land. The team is in a field, and Hari is yelling. The Honan Plains is an important granary, which is why this is critical. Right now, the spreading demonic energy is infecting the ground. Leon asks about the solution, and Hari says they need to purify the infection and clear the dungeon as soon as possible. Leon gets it. He says, I understand, and adds, an infected land and the growth of the gate is the problem. He then looks at Hari and gives her a command. Call your forces. Leon tells them that tomorrow, the moment the time limit is over, this king will personally step in. Hari is shocked and asks, really? Leon looks at her and adds, However, before that, he lays out his conditions, saying that a king from a foreign country cannot do any military activities in another's territory as he pleases. He adds, First, I need to receive permission from this nation's king. Leon is lecturing Hari about proper conduct, saying, "How can you call yourself an honorable knight when you don't abide by the laws of your nation?" Leon 1, the guild master, is furious. He's yelling at the Hunter Association crew to hurry and send word to your king. He's thinking to himself, "This bastard is worse than me." In the end, they listened. The narration says, "In the Yindi, they asked," and a voice from an airplane says, "Yes, this is the president." It looks like Leon is going to get his permission. Hari approaches Leon, holding a bundle, and says, Your Majesty, you told me to make preparations, so I did." Leon is looking at what she's holding, and he asks, "However, how are you planning on using these?" He then looks to the side and says, "Your precious land is infected. We need to purify the land." Hari is holding a straw doll, asking pardon? With this straw doll, the narrator explains that this doll was one of the two things he requested. Leon asks about the people who made the dolls, and Hari says, "Why, yes." We find out his other request. He wanted women who had given birth to make the dolls. He then orders everyone to show him what they've made. The narrator confirms what we're about to see, saying, "That's how a doll-making competition opened up in the middle of the plains." Leon is looking at one of the dolls with a thoughtful HMM. A woman is showing him a doll, and she says, "Impossible." Leon is confused and asks, "Pardon?" Leon's power flares up, and he yells at her, "To think you call this metaphysical eccentric body a doll?" He then gives his verdict, "Fail." Another doll is getting rejected. It's flying through the air with a speech bubble saying, "How disgraceful." And the narration just says, "Fail." He's yelling at a doll that can talk. He's yelling, "Didn't you say you had given birth? You foolish person." The doll just yells back, "WH, you brickhead." The narration confirms Hari fail, and it's a complete bust. The narrator says, "After touching so many dolls, fail." It looks like Leon's plan is not working. The narrator says, "The person who caught Leon's, I was the 89th woman, an old married woman." He's impressed by her doll, which is shown with an incredible text. He asks her a personal question. How many children have you given birth to?" She responds, 12. The narrator adds, "The origin of life of a living patriot." Leon then kisses her hand, apologizing for not being able to give her a proper reward in the moment. The old woman seems to be happy and says, "Ho, ho, ho." Leon takes the doll from the old woman and puts it on a table in the field. He then holds his hand out, and a blue circle appears. He says, "The conditions have been met." And just like that, the Holy Grail appears, which is a major callback to the first Manhwa. Leon is now holding the Holy Grail, and a voice is speaking to him, saying, "Mother of this abundant land." The voice explains, "The people of this earth are offering you this doll of harvest." Leon is on his knees, and the Holy Grail is glowing. The voice says, "Please receive it." Hari is shocked, watching the cup fill up with a mysterious liquid. A close-up on the cup shows it bubbling over and overflowing with the liquid. As the sun rises, the cup is now overflowing. The narration says that the cup is filling up with water on its own. A red light appears, filling the sky. As the narrator says, "A new day is wanting to star." The narrator continues, saying, "However, the sun that is rising today." He finishes the thought, saying the sun will be a special star to this world. The doll from the ritual is now glowing with a golden light. Leon Wan and his crew are shocked. They're yelling that the doll stood on its own and asking, "The water droplets are going inside the doll?" The doll is now a living being and is smiling. Leon looks down and says, "I greet Mother Earth." And finally, we get the big reveal. The doll is actually the goddess Demi-GOD'S. She says, "It's been a while," and the narrator confirms that divinity had descended on this land. Leon bows before the doll, greeting her as the Great Earth Mother, dear Demi-GOD'S, the divine being ruling over life and fertility. The doll, now Demi-GOD'S, speaks. She reveals that this new land is also invaded by evil, and that the land is contaminated. Leon agrees with her, but he points out a crucial difference. There are also evil species on this land, but there is no divinity here. It looks like this fight will be very different from his last one. Leon is talking to Leon. He's saying, "So I'm afraid the lowly and vulgar swines might sully your eyes." The goddess speaks, giving a lore dump. She says, "Ignorance and greed cannot always be judged as sins. Those are the built-in characteristics of a mortal." The goddess then looks at Leon, and she asks him directly, "What do you plan on doing now?" Leon is looking on with a serious expression. He thinks to himself, it's not hard to blend in amongst the swordsmen, but the authority of a conqueror is divine. He then places his hand on his chest and declares, "I will make sure that duty and authority can be on equal grounds here. I will teach the ignorant and lead them to the right path." The goddess is looking on with a happy expression as the narrator reveals her plan, until a new pantheon arises on this earth. The goddess asks Leon, "Child, do you not have a favor to ask of me?" and assures him, "We are always ready." Leon then asks her to help, saying, "The free citizens of this earth are suffering because of an evil energy." He asks her to please heal and purify this land. The goddess smiles and names him her champion, saying, "You are my temple's head." Our champion. The goddess reveals her plan. This world's land isn't her body, so she says she's going to spread my divinity here and substitute this thirsty earth with my flesh. And when that happens, the narrator says, then everything that walks on this earth will be your ally. A huge beam of light bursts out from the ground, which is the result of her using her power to purify the land. The ritual works. The land is purified, and the crops are now glowing with a golden light. The other characters look on in disbelief. Leon looks at them, and he's not happy. He yells, "Watch and learn. You, who are ignorant and cannot learn and cannot know." The narrator provides the final thought, saying that this is a world that is blessed with divinity. The land is now completely purified. The ritual is complete, and the grain is now thriving. The narrator says, "Give birth and prosper." Hari and the others are in complete shock. Leon says to them, "That is the righteous duty of a living being." The narrator's final words come from Leon, who says, "This fertile earth is the proof of an eternal promise." Leon is completely shocked by the purified land, holding a handful of the glowing grain and just saying, "Che." He starts yelling at everyone, telling them, "Everyone, do not be fooled." He claims the crops are poisonous. Leon overhears him and looks back, thinking, what an ignorant fool. He then says, "These are crops blessed with divinity. How dare you judge it as poison?" He then adds, "I'm sure you know that." Leon is yelling at the doll, calling it a stupid straw doll. Leon cuts him off, telling him, "I can only forgive ignorance once. Do not dirty the goddess with your light tongue." Leon is now terrified, and he lets out a yell of fear. He's thinking to himself, "Damn it, this can't happen. My plan's about to be ruined, all because of him." Leon is furious, and he's thinking to himself, "I can't let that happen. I'll expose your blatant lies." He's trying to get the others on his side, saying, "I hope you will cooperate for the sake of the people who will be eating this." He then threatens Leon, "I will frame you as a fraud." He then reveals his next move, saying, "I'll provide the appraiser." It looks like this is about to get more serious. The appraiser steps up and says, "Then, I'll begin." He uses his powers, and a blue aura surrounds him as he starts the appraisal. We then see a close-up of someone who is completely terrified, yelling, this is." The appraiser is shocked by the results. The narration says the rice is a rare rank and can cure Tier 3 diseases. He's completely hyped up, yelling that all this rice is rare rank. He's also saying that it cures Tier 3 diseases and even cancer. The other characters are completely stunned. One of them asks, "Oh, really?" And the other confirms, "Yes, really." The manager is looking at the chief and tells him to go get a pot from the chief's house. We then see a big black pot in the middle of the field. The manager is now eating the crops, and he's completely shocked, yelling in no way. The game-like UI appears, showing the stats for the rice. It says the rice increases stamina and mana recovery rates, and that it's basically a reinforcer. The manager is sitting with a bowl of rice, and he's shocked. He's thinking to himself, how can mere rice be the equivalent of a reinforcer that's worth 3 million one PR bottle? Hari is yelling at him, trying to get his attention. Hari finally gets his attention, yelling, "Manager, manager, this is big news." He tells her to finish chewing before she talks, and she adorably swallows the food in her mouth. The manager is looking a little nervous, and he admits, "I got curious and ate a bug." Hari is completely shocked, yelling, "A bug." The manager is in complete disbelief, yelling, and "I got a buff." He realizes the full scope of what's happening, thinking, if that blessing is really all over the land, a free reinforcer, then it's not weird if all living beings are also blessed. The manager is yelling, "Get as many AS you can. We're going into the gate with full buffs." The narrator says that the team's motivation has increased. The goddess is talking to Leon, calling him child. Leon responds, "Yes, dear goddess Demera." Leon looks at the goddess and thinks to himself, "It seems like I have done what I needed to do here. I should go back." Leon bows to the goddess, telling her, "I have, and never will, forget the divine love you have given us." The goddess's voice is now speaking to him, saying, "Child, allow me to give you one last lecture." The goddess, in a human-like form, is looking down at him. She gives him her last piece of advice. Make sure to feed yourself. It looks like this is the end of the prologue. The dolphin the ritual falls over. It's a quiet moment, but it's a major sign of what's to come. Hari, looking on, asks Ich, "Your Majesty? What is?" Leon looks at her and answers, "Divine power." Hari is now even more confused, and she asks him directly, "Is there no God in this world?" and then says, "I'm not sure." Leon gives his final piece of advice to the people, telling them, "A proper life and world is made with divine power. You earthlings better keep that in mind." One of the characters says, "Now that the soldiers are full, we'll go into the gate. The raid is about to begin." The guild master looks concerned. His companion asks, "Guild master, will it be okay?" The guild master thinks, "At this rate, there'll be problems with our plan." The guild master is absolutely livid. He's thinking to himself, "That damn survivor bastard. Damn it, where did he come from?" He continues his internal monologue, thinking that if Leon wasn't here, the government would have had no choice but to listen to them. He then says, "I wish he would just die in the gate." But then, something catches him off guard. He looks on in shock, asking, "HM?" The guild master has a sinister grin, thinking, "That's not a bad idea." His companion is worried, but he tells him, "You don't need to worry." They're both looking at the gate, and the guild master says, "This gate's already somewhat raided." His companion agrees, saying, "The middle was a bit difficult, but..." The companion then looks shocked, yelling, "AH." It looks like he just realized what the guildmaster's plan is. Leon is thinking about the team that's going into the gate. He knows there's only one A-rank hunter, Hari. He's also underestimating Leon, thinking he's just a blessing-type buffer and that he's shit when it comes to combat. With that thought, Leon smiles confidently, saying, "Meaning they will definitely fail." We then see what's really waiting for them inside the gate. It's a huge, terrifying monster that looks like it will be a major problem. The narrator introduces a new threat, saying, "Is a monster that cannot be defeated using ordinary means." A warning appears, titled, "Dungeon Break is beginning." The pop-up says that all the lives of the living beings in the gate are now on countdown. We see someone's feet stepping into a dark cave. The raid is officially on. Leon and a whole team of other hunters are now standing inside the cave, ready to take on the challenge. Leon is explaining the rules of the dungeon, saying, In other words, most of the gates will close if we clear the quest or defeat the boss. Leon talks about fighting the boss, and he says, a duel with the boss. I like it. The narrator then adds that Hari couldn't tell him that they usually gang up on them. The team is walking through the dungeon, and they come across a massive monster skeleton. Leon questions the sheer number of monsters in the dungeon. Someone responds, OH, that's the characteristic of this dungeon. Hari tells Leon that unlike other gates, in this one, the monsters like skeletons or zombies keep coming back. The narrator explains why, saying, as long as the boss monster is still alive, they'll infinitely respawn. Leon looks on, and he's not fazed. He says, interesting. That means that things will only end if we defeat the boss. I understand. Leon explains his theory to the team. He thinks the dungeon is a boss dungeon, and that the boss is probably a necromancer that controls skeletons. Hari looks at a glowing red tablet, saying, I think. The tablet reveals the mission. A dungeon break has begun. The commander knight, Dullahan, is advancing with his troops. The mission is to defeat him in 3 hours. The team is in a battle. Someone yells, KUGH, and you can tell they are in trouble. The manager is furious, yelling, Lee Yong-won, you bastard. He's angry that Lee Yong-won didn't warn them about what was waiting for them. We then get our first look at the main villain, the commander knight, Dullahan. He's got glowing eyes and looks like a serious problem. The narrator tells us that the dungeon break is now on a timer. The time remaining is 2 hours 58 minutes. We see a massive army of skeletons with their boss in the back. One of the skeletons looks ready to fight, adding to the sense of dread. The manager is panicking, saying, there's so fucking many. He's then asked if he should distribute the potions, and he responds, focus on giving them TO the upper ranks. A hunter with a bow is yelling, Mashik, how many archers and mages are there? He gets a response. Right now, I see 30 archers and 2 mages. The manager is yelling out the battle plan, telling those with a sniping skill to take care of the long-range mobs first, and those with a shield to stop them from advancing. He then turns and yells at the horde of skeletons, good luck, you fuckers. We get a close-up of one of the skeletons, and it looks like it's grinning, which is a great way to add to the sense of dread. A hunter with a shield is in a fight with a skeleton. The hunter is yelling, HA, as he blocks an attack. The hunter thinks to himself, they're stronger than I thought? I guess the orange gates really are different. The hunter then uses his shield to hit the skeleton, yelling, however. He thinks to himself, they're not too much for 8B ranked tank like me to handle. He's confident in his ability to fight. The manager is in complete shock, yelling. We then find out why. The narrator yells, damn it, Vermeer skeletons too actually have advanced spells. Character yells here, over here. I need to grab their attention. A close-up on the skeleton's face shows it's a necromancer, and he's ready for a real fight. The fight is on. A robed figure is casting a spell, and someone is yelling, SIR. A character with a scar on his face is looking on, saying it's fine, it's just a little sting. He's confident and he adds, you should know, this gear is expensive dash. He's now in a direct confrontation with the boss, Dullahan. He's yelling, and it looks like a serious fight is about to go down. The character then yells, Dullahan. It's a perfect way to end the video, as it sets up a new action scene. The manager is fighting, yelling, as he uses his shield to block an attack. But a monster flying above him hits him with a powerful attack, and he yells, KUGH? He's now on the ground, coughing up blood. He's been defeated. Hari then yells, HH, Section Chief Kim, as she realizes he's in trouble and that Leon is now here. Hari is in a panic. A character with a staff is asking her, should we have the reserve forces help? As the manager is in trouble. We see the manager fighting a massive monster with a greatsword, and he's completely outmatched. Hari is now looking at Leon, thinking, even if he's the king of the lion heart that defeated a great demon. She then pleads with him, my lord. She then begs him directly, Please help us. Leon refuses to help, saying, a king should never join a small battle like this. The other characters are confused, asking, HUH? What do you mean? Leon is now angry, saying, I can't believe you try to force me to help take on those damn bones. He thinks it's rude to the goddess too. The team is now panicking, asking Hari, what the hell is he saying? Assistant Manager Han, what should we do? Hari's thoughts take over, and she realizes I don't have time to waste. This man has no intention to help. Leon's mind is a bit of mystery. He's thinking, doesn't seem like he has any interest in anything except the Dullahan. He's also wondering, how does the undead move like that? Hari takes charge, yelling, we need to stop the Dullahan first. Everyone else, please support Section, Chief Kim, and our allies. She then unleashes a powerful attack, trying to get to the boss. The attack is a success. The skeletons are pushed back by her attack, but it looks like the fight is far from over. A character's foot is shown stomping on a skeleton's head. It's a quick and brutal takedown. Hari is fighting the boss, Dullahan, and she's jumping through the air with her sword, but it doesn't look like it's enough. The boss is casting a huge spell, and it looks like a seriously powerful attack is about to happen. Hari's attack is blocked, and she's in disbelief, saying, HHE blocked it. TSK. The boss is much stronger than she thought. Hari is trying to get the Commander Knight alone, thinking to herself, I need to do whatever I can to separate it from the crowd. She manages to cut off his head, and she's shocked by what she just did, yelling, what the? The narrator then asks a very good question. What kind of undead fights like this? The Commander Knight is not phased, though. He's now fighting Hari with a huge magical attack, and it looks like it's a tough fight. Hari is coughing and looks relieved, saying, thank God. It looks like she just managed to do something big. She looks on at the Commander Knight, and she's shocked. The narrator says, I managed to separate it from the rest. But the Commander Knight isn't happy about it. He apologizes, saying sorry. The range of my skills are just too large, and then unleashes a powerful attack.